Welcome to Algorithmic Arguments. I'm your host, the Orchestrator. Tonight, we're plunging into a debate that's sure to reshape the way you think about the built environment. Is OMA's architectural style more innovative than AUS's? This isn't just a question for architecture buffs. It's a window into how we design our cities, interact with spaces, and experience the world around us. Joining me are Dr. Yuki Tanaka, whose insights into science and philosophy will help us evaluate innovation through different lenses. Big Tony Russo brings his boots-on-the-ground perspective from small business and neighborhood politics, reminding us that architecture affects real people's lives. Ingrid Solberg, with her expertise in contemporary painting and art theory, will guide us on the intersection of aesthetics and creativity. And Mark Okafor, our resident philosopher, will ensure we consider the deeper implications of architectural choices. Tonight, we'll dissect what innovation means in architecture, examine the portfolios of both firms, and explore how their styles impact society. Let's dive in.
I'd love to dive into this discussion. When evaluating the innovation of an architectural style, I think we need to consider not just aesthetics but also functionality and impact on urban planning. The Office for Metropolitan Architecture, or OMA, founded by Koolhaas, is known for its avant-garde and often provocative designs that challenge traditional notions of space and structure. Take their iconic Seattle Central Library. It's a masterclass in reimagining public spaces. On the other hand, Australian architects have made significant contributions too, like Frank Gehry's Sydney Opera House, an instantly recognizable landmark. However, if I had to compare the two, I'd argue that OMA's style pushes boundaries more consistently across their portfolio, often integrating sustainability and community needs in novel ways.
Listen, I'm a practical guy, not some fancy architect. But from what I know, OMA and AUS are two different beasts. OMA's got that bold, deconstructed look, like they're trying to turn the whole building upside down. AUS, on the other hand, seems more traditional with those sleek lines and curves. Now, innovative, that's a tough one. I'd say OMA's style is definitely attention-grabbing, but sometimes I think they prioritize shock value over function. You gotta live in these buildings, not just look at them. I've seen some OMA designs that are straight up impractical. So more innovative, maybe, but not always better. What's the goal here, aesthetics or usability? That's what I'd be a skin.
Big Tony Russo's reference to AUS seems inaccurate. It might be referring to another architectural firm or style.
Look at the built works of both firms. I think it's clear that OMA pushes boundaries in a way that AUS doesn't. Take OMA's Bibliothèque Centrale, for instance. The angularity and tension it creates with its brutalist forms is far more jarring than anything AUS has done recently. Now, I'm not saying AUS lacks innovation entirely. Their use of parametric design tools shows they are keeping up with technology. But when I compare the two firms' portfolios, OMA's projects consistently challenge traditional notions of space and function in a way that feels truly groundbreaking. The work doesn't lie. You can see it in Koolhaas's oeuvre, from De Rotterdam to their more recent designs. There's an intellectual curiosity driving their process that's hard to ignore. I'd argue that this willingness to upend conventional architecture is what sets OMA apart as the more innovative firm here.
Ingrid Solberg's reference to AUS's use of parametric design tools seems accurate. However, a more in-depth analysis of specific projects would strengthen her argument.
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves here. When discussing innovation in architecture, we need to define what that means. For me, it's not just about aesthetics, it's about challenging social and spatial norms. OMA's work, like the iconic Casa de Música in Portugal, does push boundaries in terms of urban planning and community engagement. However, AUS's use of parametric design tools, as Ingrid mentioned, shouldn't be underestimated. Their approach to generative design allows for a level of complexity and adaptability that can lead to innovative solutions. Let's not forget, innovation isn't solely the domain of one firm, it's about how they apply their unique philosophies to create impactful spaces. We should examine specific projects and their impacts rather than making sweeping statements.
As we analyze the bold claims of innovation surrounding OMA and AUS's architectural styles, one aspect stands out: their approaches to sustainability and urban integration. OMA's emphasis on adaptive reuse and contextual design has yielded structures that not only push boundaries but also engage with their surroundings in meaningful ways. Consider their iconic Seattle Central Library, which transformed a neglected site into a vibrant public hub. Meanwhile, AUS's focus on sleek, modernist lines often results in striking visuals, but sometimes at the cost of deeper community connection. I'd like to explore this tension. Can innovative design and social responsibility coexist, or are they mutually exclusive? The next round will dive deeper into these questions with our panelist responses. If you're enjoying this nuanced discussion, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. We'll dissect the intersection of form and function in architecture.
Look at this. When we examine the tension between innovation and social responsibility, I think OMA strikes a remarkable balance. Their Seattle Central Library isn't just an aesthetic marvel, it's a functional space that has revitalized its community. I'd argue that their approach to adaptive reuse, as seen in projects like the library or even the Tianjin Eco-City Plan, sets them apart from firms that prioritize visual impact over social integration. Now, AUS's use of parametric design tools is indeed innovative, but let's not confuse technical prowess with holistic innovation. The work doesn't lie if a building looks stunning, but fails to engage its users meaningfully. I'd say that's shallow innovation at best. OMA seems to consistently push boundaries while considering the human element. That blend makes their style more compelling and impactful in my view.
Ingrid Solberg's reference to AUS was unclear. Let's ensure we establish a clear definition before proceeding.
Alright, let's get down to business. Innovation isn't just about looks. It's about results. I've seen some of OMA's stuff, like that Seattle Central Library. It works, people love it. Now, I don't know much about AUS, but if they're all about sleek lines and not so much on the community side, that's a problem. You gotta balance form and function. My buddy Sal owns a construction company. He says it's not just about building something, it's about building for people. OMA seems to get that. Their Tianjin Eco-City project? That's some next-level thinking. If AUS can't match that, then I don't see how they can claim to be more innovative. It's about delivering on the ground, not just looking good on paper or in pictures camera with flash.
When evaluating the innovation of OMA and AUS's architectural styles, I think we need to consider the context of their work. OMA, or Office for Metropolitan Architecture, has been influential in redefining urban landscapes with projects like the Seattle Central Library, which challenged traditional notions of library design. On the other hand, architects associated with Australian architecture, such as Glenn Murcutt, have focused on sustainability and environmental responsiveness, yielding structures that beautifully harmonize with their surroundings. While both firms showcase groundbreaking work, I'd argue OMA's designs often provoke more intense discussions about urban functionality and space usage. Their radical approach to city planning might edge out AUS in terms of innovation, but it's essential to recognize the value of context-sensitive architecture AUS brings to the table. Ultimately, defining innovation can significantly sway our assessment here.
Listen, I've seen my fair share of buildings going up in this city, and I gotta say, when it comes to innovation, OMA's got some impressive stuff under their belt. Take their design for the Seattle Central Library. That place is a game changer. It's not just about slapping up some fancy facade. It's about creating spaces that work for people. Now, I'm not saying AUS doesn't have its strengths, but when I look at OMA's portfolio, I see a consistent thread of pushing boundaries. Their use of parametric design and emphasis on sustainability sets them apart. Don't get me wrong, AUS has done some great work too, like their Brisbane Airport terminal. That's some top-notch functionality right there. But overall, I'd say OMA's style is more innovative, just based on the projects I've followed over the years.
Look at the body of work from both firms, and it's clear that innovation isn't just about flashy forms or computer-generated renderings. OMA's projects, like the Seattle Public Library, showcase a mastery of fluid space and urban integration. Their use of concrete and steel creates these monumental structures that interact with their surroundings in unexpected ways. On the other hand, AUS prioritizes sustainability and contextual design, which I think is crucial but doesn't always push boundaries in terms of materiality or spatial experience. The work doesn't lie. OMA's designs often challenge users to rethink how they engage with a building, whereas AUS tends to blend into its environment more harmoniously. For me, innovation isn't just about aesthetics. It's about the dialogue between architecture and user, and on that front, I think OMA has consistently pushed further.
Let's dive into the meat of this discussion. When evaluating innovation in architecture, we need to consider not just aesthetics but also functionality and impact on urban landscapes. OMA, or Office for Metropolitan Architecture, has certainly pushed boundaries with projects like the Seattle Central Library, a building that's equal parts functional and thought-provoking. On the other hand, AUS, or Allies of Architects and Urbanists, while accomplished, tends to focus more on sustainable design principles. I'd argue that OMA's willingness to challenge conventional norms gives them an edge in terms of innovation. Their designs often spark conversations about what architecture can achieve beyond mere shelter. That said, AUS has made significant strides in eco-friendly construction. It's not a clear-cut win for OMA. The question then becomes, what does innovation mean here? Is it purely about aesthetics or also about the social and environmental impact?
As we wrap up tonight's episode of Algorithmic Arguments, let's revisit the fiery discussion on whether OMA's architectural style surpasses that of AUS in innovation. Ingrid Solberg kicked off our conversation with a compelling argument that OMA's deconstructivist approach, as seen in their iconic projects like the Seattle Central Library, embodies a bold departure from traditional architectural norms. Mark Okafor countered with AUS's emphasis on sustainable and context-driven designs, citing the Australian Pavilion at the 2015 Milan Expo as an exemplar of adaptive innovation. What stood out was how our panelists navigated the blurred lines between form and function, pushing each other to consider what truly constitutes innovation in architecture. In the end, Ingrid Solberg took the top score with her incisive analysis of OMA's influence on contemporary architectural discourse. A huge thank you to our panelists for a thought-provoking exchange. To our audience, if you've enjoyed this episode, please do us a favor and hit that like button. It's a huge help in getting more intelligent conversations like this out to the world. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and join us next time on Algorithmic Arguments as we dive into another complex topic. Until then, keep questioning and keep exploring. I'm the Orchestrator, signing off.